From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
And ahead on this Wednesday morning, those winds came and the trees and power lines came crashing down. Just days after one storm, Billings residents suffering another. We're checking in on the damage and how energy crews are logging those overnight hours to get the power back on. And she's picked a running mate. We take you on the campaign trail this morning as Vice President Kamala Harris chooses Minnesota Governor Tim Walz to be by her side as we move into a heated November presidential election. Welcome to Montana This Morning. On this Wednesday, we're so glad that you are joining us. You really nailed it yesterday.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you did.
I was, those are one of those days you wish you're wrong. It's like, man, hope this stuff doesn't happen. But it got hot yesterday. In fact, we'll take a look. Let's take a look at the almanac, and I'll explain what was happening. We got hot yesterday. When you get that heat, you get that instability, and it just pops. Boom. And that's exactly what happened yesterday with those storms. That heat feeding into the storms, and it got nasty. So 93 yesterday. We're not going to see 90s for a while moving forward as we got a couple shots of cooler air coming in. Our low down to about 59. Top gusts yesterday with this storm of 76 miles an hour at the airport. We'll tell you more about that here in just a moment. We had almost 4/10 of an inch of rain, almost 8/10 of an inch for the month. So we're in pretty good shape as it stands right now, and we could use that rain because of the drought conditions out there. All of us in some stage of drought. And this is what it looked like. 18 hours. We'll back it up for you. You can see as we got later in the day into the early evening, it popped, and it popped big time with trees down, limbs down, debris all over the place. We had the hail. Lots of rainfall, and these are just some of the reports coming in. It's just kind of break down just a few. Again, 76 mile an hour gust at the airport. That's the second highest on record at Logan. We had one back in July 7th of 2007 of 85. The strongest gust off of this storm in Corinth, that's about 38 miles northeast of Billings, of 78 miles an hour. We also had some hail too, and of course pockets of some heavy rainfall. And this is what it looks like right now. Moving forward, just maybe general thunderstorms possible. Daily showers and thunderstorms will be possible all the way through maybe early next week. But really now we start to clean up and we enjoy a cool down. We'll talk about that cool down coming up.
What a difference 24 hours can make.
It was crazy yesterday.
Yeah, I know it. Wow. All right, Miller, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at some of that damage now this morning. That's where we'll start with it. Overnight cleanup underway in Billings. Residents waking up to all of that damage. As Miller said, those mile-per-hour gusts reaching 75, 76, 78 in some areas, torrential downpour, hail. We take a look at some of the incredible video from that storm as it hit. The damage includes snap power poles and power lines laying in the middle of streets, dozens of mature trees uprooted, hundreds of limbs blown onto houses, and thousands are left without power this morning. Northwestern Energy and Yellowstone Valley Electric are working overtime right now to get all of that power restored. It is the second time in 3 days Billings has been hit hard by storms. Our David J. was on scene right as it was happening. He takes a look at the damage left behind and the residents for cleaning it up.
We're on Lake Elmo Drive at Judith Lane. It's closed off in both directions right now. This tree came down on the power lines. Fire department just left the scene. And over on the other side, a neighbor also had a tree come down on his house. Mike Dolan came to his front door and then went back in the house.
The storm came up and the wind, and I heard a noise and I thought maybe I'd lost a limb off of a different tree. So I go to the front of the house to look, and about that time is when the pine tree is coming down. And all of a sudden I see it coming towards me, so I take off and run the other direction, and I stop, and because I didn't want to get trapped underneath the tree in my front room. And then that's where it all ended up, is it just kind of leaning on my house right now.
Dolan believes that the house across the street was fine where the tree came down on power lines. An officer on the scene says no one was injured. Down the street, neighbors came together to move a tree out of the road and clear some of it from the...
It was kind of fun, helping and making use to just help people.
Nice to see people actually step up. Really good.
And some of that goodwill was in downtown Billings on 2nd Avenue North in front of the sheriff's office, where one man helped just to be a good citizen. Others also did what they could to help. Up at the airport, 2 trees came down, and first reports indicated the Yellowstone County Museum was damaged.
I hate to see any of these big, beautiful trees down, but I'm glad it didn't fall on our Yellowstone County Museum.
Commissioner John Austin came up to check that, as well as other parts of the county.
Just on the road, trees down, and all those things. It'll take a little evaluation first to find out where the biggest problems are.
In Billings, David J., MTN News.
All right, thanks, David. Continuing our storm coverage, energy crews are still working some spots across the city. They're focusing on the badly damaged Billings Heights, the downtown area, and Lockwood. Our Russ Riesinger has a look at the damage felt by residents.
It's a similar story all over the Billings area. You don't have to look far to see the damage. It's all over town. This is Alderson and 5th, where a large tree came crashing down on top of 2 cars. The storm pulling this tree up by the roots near Pioneer Park, blocking off the street near Park Hill and 3rd. To the north on Rimrock Road, another tree tumbles in the storm, closing off that busy road for a time. Power lines down in many places across town. This was the scene on Lake Elmo Road, many left in the dark without power. This is video from South Park, where trees that had stood for decades were taken down by the storm in a matter of moments. The Heights got some of the worst damage. Windows at Skyview High School knocked out. And take a look at the Little League field in Lockwood. High winds and hail flipping the bleachers over, causing a lot of damage there. In Billings, Russ Riesinger, MTN News.
More destruction in western Montana. Florence family lost their home after a lightning strike set it on fire. This storm went through the area earlier this week and hit this home on Lower Woodchuck Road. The fire was reported by one of the neighbors because no one was home at the time. Crews were on scene until 4 in the morning to make sure the fire was fully extinguished. The family's pets did not survive. Vice President Kamala Harris and her newly picked running mate Tim Walz are energized this morning after holding their first rally together in Philadelphia. In the days ahead, they'll visit battleground states before the Democratic National Convention this month in Chicago. Carissa Lawson reports.
Governor Tim Walz of the great state of Minnesota.
Vice President Kamala Harris introduced her running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, to a crowd of thousands in Philadelphia and to millions of voters across the country.
He's the kind of person who makes people feel like they belong and then inspires them to dream big. And that's the kind of vice president he will be.
This first stop for the Harris-Walz ticket kicks off a tour to at least 5 other battleground states over the next few days.
This campaign, our campaign, is not just a fight against Donald Trump.
In his remarks, the 60-year-old governor also went on the offensive against former President Donald Trump and his VP running mate, J.D. Vance, saying he can't wait to debate him.
That is, if he's willing to get off the couch and show up. These guys are creepy and, yes, just weird as hell. That's what you see.
Rallying earlier Tuesday, also in Philadelphia, Vance said he'll debate Walz after the Democratic National Convention.
That is what's so scandalous about Kamala Harris's basement campaign. 16 days she has been the presumptive nominee of the Democrat Party. 0 times she has sat for a real media interview. That's a disgrace.
The Trump campaign released a new video attacking Harris for her VP pick.
Kamala Harris just doubled down on her radical vision for America,
saying, quote, Tim Walz will be a rubber stamp for Kamala's dangerously liberal agenda. Carissa Lawson, CBS News, New York.
Montana's Democrat U.S. Senator Jon Tester is receiving some unlikely support for his bid for re-election, revealing a list of Republicans for Tester supporting him. The group has 16 current and former elected officials, several with strained relationships with the Montana Republican Party in recent years, and including former Governor Mark Roscoe, who endorsed several Democratic-backed candidates. In addition, his Republican supporters involve current state Senator Terry Vermeer and Mallory Stromsvold of Billings. The supporters say regardless of the party, they trust Tester to fight for Montana's interest. Tester is seeking another term in the Senate against Republican challenger Tim Sheehy. Tropical storm Debby continues its drenching path up the East Coast after unleashing deadly flooding across several cities in the south. North of Charleston, a tornado toppled businesses and tossed over cars. In parts of Savannah, a rescue mission was set up for residents trapped by flood waters. Debby started as a Category 1 hurricane in Florida, taking several lives, including the life of a driver of a semi-truck that careened into a canal. Now the storm is moving slowly up the coast. A small town takeover. Alzada, Montana is tucked away in the southern Carter County, that is, of Montana, near Wyoming and South Dakota. It is home to less than 30 people, but that changes as the town literally grows to 8,000 in just 24 hours. As our Alina Howder found out, it's all part of the Sturgis bike rally.
Alzada, Montana has about 24 residents, but one day every year it becomes one of the largest towns in the region, and that's thanks to thousands of bikers on their way to and from the Sturgis rally.
You can't believe what a bunch of bikers think of a bunch of cowboys. They were pretty fascinated with all of that.
It's not just a bunch of bikers making their way to Alzada's Stoneville Saloon. It's thousands.
There's one convenience store in Alzada, and that poor little store just burst at the seams on that day.
Julie Stoddard lives near Alzada.
It's pretty crazy, actually.
She's seen firsthand the joy, excitement, and traffic these bikers bring to the Stoneville Saloon on this specific Tuesday every year.
On that particular day, to have the traffic increase by double on that road.
We have usually 7,000 to 10,000 bikes. If we make it over about 8,400, we're bigger than Miles City and Havre, so we're in the top 10 largest cities in Montana for an afternoon.
Carter County Deputy Sheriff Dwayne Bruce says they've had bikes backed up over a mile to the state line in the past. He said there's so many people in the area that you can't even get cell phone service.
Your phone will tell you got 5 bars. You try to make a call and it'll say, tower's busy, try again later.
The county also suspends any work in the area. Even the Department of Transportation is involved.
Puts a thing out on the 511 information that there's an incident here, just encouraging truck drivers to go a different route.
It's why all hands are on deck.
We have Montana Highway Patrol, Wyoming Highway Patrol, Motor Carrier Service. Then we have DES from probably 3 different counties. And then, of course, the sheriff's office. We brought in some reserves.
But a day's work is worth it for the rest of the year.
Basically, this one day makes the bar's budget for the rest of the year.
Bringing a little excitement to local residents in an otherwise remote place.
It's a great chance to learn about other people and share with them about our world, too.
Alina Howder, MTN News.